there's been more than one set of company results to crow about. So let's start with Capitec, pulling out the stops again.
If you look at this year, it's definitely much more stable. I think the $1 million question is, if you look at food inflation is coming down, inflation is coming down. I think interest rates will come down later this year, coming down. So there's much more stability. There's no load shedding. So it's still going to be uncertain. There's the elections and there's the Middle East. But I think it's much more manageable. So we will be careful on the credit side, retail credit. We will be conservative. But where we are looking to gain market share is in the business banking side.
So I need to speak to the governor about ties, because he's got epic ties. These were knockout results. I mean, what stood out for me was cost to income at 39%, which had been moving higher, which you expect.
Yeah.
I thought 44, 40, 39, insane. But the valuation,
High.
6 times to book.
Yeah, I know. But
I
it's
could
not
pick
going
up
to
Standard
change.
Bank at one time.
As long as they produce these results, the share price will keep going up and people will continue to buy it. That's the problem. You know, I think we've got to get rid of a lot of the old ways of looking at the market. You know, the PEs and so on. It doesn't work anymore.
You mean valuation?
Valuation don't work. Out the window. Look for good companies with
Don't people say
am I
valuations
supposed to
out
do?
the window, and that's when it all comes tumbling down, because they say this is the new normal? Is that what you're just telling us?
What I'm saying is that if you would have applied strict rules of valuations and PEs and deviations from the mean, etc., you wouldn't have bought one tech share. You know, you would have been out the tech market. You would have still been holding some of those high value stocks and not made money. So I think you've got to look at it. You've got to understand the company and understand where it's going. This is a growth company. They're innovative. They haven't got the legacy issues that our traditional banks have got. And there's so many things in its favor. I'm kind of looking at Old Mutual Bank and I say, you know, you can do it. Because you're not going to have, you can have salespeople who are walking around with their phones, you know, and get people digitized and that. You can do it because you've got the workforce out there to sell your products. And I think it gives them a distinct advantage to our old traditional First Rands and Standard Banks and even Investex.
Those old banks with 150 years of heritage. But it also means they've got a ledger in the basement that they've got to update twice a week. I mean, that's just the stark reality.
And they still do it in ink.
Yeah, I mean, we opened the Capitec Business Bank accounts, and it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Just saw what happened.
Online, didn't have to, it was just, it's incredible.
That's proper fintech. And they've got systems there that are way ahead of everybody else. And the people like it because they know they can walk in there. They're not bombarded with an array of products. You can either get, like a Ford, you can either get black, you can choose any color you want as long as it's black, you know. It's that kind of product. So and their clients love them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I opened a business bank account online with a traditional bank. It worked. Also took 3 weeks.
Really?
At which time your business has risen and fallen.
This one was, I would say, no longer than 24 hours.
Yeah. Okay. Well, not to mention clicks.
We've had a phenomenal 6-month period. And so, first of all, you know, kudos to the teams, but really continuing strong growth in health and beauty in all of the categories. So pharmacy, fantastic, 80 bips up. For the 6-month period. And that's because we concentrated on service. In front shop health, likewise up in terms of market share. You know, once again, we really got the ranges very right. We got the pricing very right. We innovated. We launched new private label product ranges in front shop health.
This these were great results. The line that stood out for me was they made better margin because they sold more private label, which has a higher profit margin to it. But it just tells you a consumer under pressure, and notwithstanding, these are good numbers.
Superb. I think beauty is a bulletproof industry. When I was in America, I would pass Sephora every day. It was packed. You know, it's owned by LVMH. But the number of people that go in there are testing creams, testing makeup, looking at lipsticks, whatever it is. And it's only caters to female, no men. In men, you can go into the corner and find something. You know, not that they want it, but it's packed. And I think clicks are there. They're in that area. Wherever you go and see beauty, it's for me, it's one of the most secure kind of investment areas. L'Oreal, brilliant businesses. So Clicks is there. You know, what do they sell? They sell beauty. I mean, most
They
of
sell
it. The
beauty.
rest is,
And now they sell drugs.
nappies and yeah.
Well, and then at the back they sell drugs. But,
Yeah,
and what
But they work quite hard, and the whole the whole thrust is to get the pharmacy business. They've been working on it, and it's
so they're into
off.
what 742 pharmacies in 900 stores. They're targeting 1,200 stores, which means there's going to be a Clicks. You're going to be tripping over them everywhere when you.
But your margins are in the beauty business.
Yes.
You know.
Well, that's it. That's why the drugs are at the back, right? They
Yes.
pull you in and you're
Absolutely. Hey?
Well, speaking of margins, overseas and Google's parent Alphabet has just paid a dividend and joined the $2 trillion club. Unfortunately, we don't have bright Marlow dividend puppy with us. What does that say to you? That they're just awash in cash?
It's a theme. Don't try and trash it. In other words, everybody tells you this is the spending, this is what's taking place, people are positioning. Just go with it. That's why I'm saying don't worry about the valuations. Don't try to say, this is at a 53 PE, I'm only buying it when it gets down to 20. You're never going to get it, 28 or so. So I think this is a very real theme. It's going to take a bit of time to kind of really mature and grow. But the results that came out of Alphabet and Microsoft are outstanding. The
Alphabet, I remember when they bought YouTube. What did they pay? 1.6 million, about a little under 20 years ago. And I remember at the time that crazy. They made 4x that in a quarter. It's just the numbers are staggering.
And didn't you say YouTube? It's 2005.
Their first video was this week. I think Wednesday was the anniversary of the first video. You can still go see it. It's walking around a zoo. It's about the most boring video on YouTube. But
we're on YouTube here. You want to look at us?
Hey, Ma.
Everything is on YouTube today. It's quite phenomenal, the growth that they have and how big these businesses are. And you don't have to go beyond the big ones. Everybody looks for the next big one. Doesn't matter.
But also, you make a great point there, David. We underestimate what YouTube is. We're so glib about it. I do videos for my other, and I host them on YouTube. I used to host them on my own server because I couldn't do it on YouTube. It was costing me 8 or 10 grand a month in bandwidth fees to host them. Now I host it on YouTube. Cricket. Doesn't cost me a cent. 4K video, automatic transcribing, free. Meanwhile, Tesla is maybe, after all, just a company that sells cars.
Yes. Now it wants to sell cheap cars.
It wants to sell cheap cars. It wants robo-taxis. Someone did a great takedown of Elon every time he said robo-taxis are 2 years away. His first comment on that was 2016. So we're 6 years late to the robo-taxis. It is just a car company. So back to your earlier theme about forget everything. If this is just a car company, it's not the most expensive car company in the world.
No, it isn't. I think the only worry that I have is the take-up of electric vehicles is a bit slower than we thought. And a lot has to do with infrastructure. In other words, not having the infrastructure to service these businesses. Because it's not a car. There's no moving parts. It's a completely different concept. So, and I think certainly outside of China, it's taking a lot longer for these to be accepted.
And robo-taxis, he says it's a no-brainer.
Of course, but the tech is not there.
No.
Why is this a no-brainer?
Well, take Uber, remove your big expense, the driver, boom, profitable. But in level 5 autonomous driving is just not, we're struggling with level 3, level 4. Level 5 is not happening, except on a test track.
I'm not sure. Would you? Well, actually, I'm not sure I would trust my human driver in South Africa. So, it's all up for grabs.
We have a good experience in South Africa with our taxis of what robo-taxis are going to look like. So.
Yeah.
And then there's Copper 360, which has a stonking great week, thanks to some well-timed SENS statements, given the great copper rush. Here's Jan Nelson on the state of the market.
The demand now for copper is busy outstripping the supply, and that's why we're seeing this run in the copper price. Excuse me. But what is added to this is obviously infrastructure development and EVs. But what's also now come onto the radar is artificial intelligence and the computing centers and power that is necessary to drive AI. And that requires a lot of copper, which wasn't previously something that was part of the big copper demand. So, that's what's driving the price up.
But there's the rather weird matter of share price manipulation.
Our shareholders should be happy, the price appreciated. We've had some price manipulation that we've observed over the last few weeks, and we did announce that. And we've taken the appropriate action. We've spoken to the JSE. We have reported the incident to the Financial Services Surveillance team. And it's not that we should focus as a team on the share price. People will buy your share and they'll sell it, and one must understand that and make peace with that. But when people systematically goes and manipulate the price to force it down and get people to sell, that's a criminal offense.
He's right. I got to say, I had a long, hard look at that chart. I mean, I couldn't see the manipulation, but I don't have the level of data. I mean, sometimes you can, sometimes it just, and sometimes your manipulation is just a big seller. I don't know. But the copper, they're pulling it out the ground. I saw the new Grace Hopper 200 chip from NVIDIA. You got to understand, this thing is like a suitcase, man, like a big suitcase. There is a lot of copper in there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I think that's the big story now. I'm not cynical. I like it if copper price goes up, but sometimes these stories kind of run out of steam there. I think commodities is so difficult to read, but let it run. And good luck to Jan. Good luck to them pulling copper out.
They're using mines that Goldfields walked away from 30 years ago.
For good reason, yeah.
Which is, but it is actually very interesting because the copper prices had plunged, and it just there was a strange symmetry on the market this week where you had BHP making this push for Anglo American because of its copper assets, and then Copper 360 comes out with some good news. No wonder the prices.
And we got Orion. You're forgetting Orion as well back there.
Spectacular,
fantastic.
But I got to say, CPR, man, worst share code in the world. You do not want to be the CPR. Surely that is anyway. I don't know who.
That's funny.
And finally, we're not sure. You should try this on your next 42-kilometer jaunt. But one runner and wine expert took up a challenge to name 25 wines, their vintage, grape, and producer during the London Marathon. Tom Gilby started out strong at a mile 1, identifying a 2018 Burgundy Pinot Noir, went on to name 21 wines, getting 4 wrong. At some point, he says, there was a trio of really grim beverages, and at some point he was overtaken by a fridge. The mind boggles, but at £14,000 for charity raised, can't be sniffed at. I follow him on TikTok, and he's huge fun. But this wine thing was insane. Literally, he runs up, sniffs a glass, tells you what it is, and
he didn't drink it.
He did drink some of them.
Drank some of it, not a whole glass, David.
No one could drink. I've done that on a marathon. I've had a beer when I ran the 2 oceans, and I was exhausted.
What, during the marathon?
Chaps on the side, I said, can I have a sip? And I took the whole beer, ran in a little wobbly, but finished.
Ran a whole lot further distance.
Well, you want to make it more fun than it is. Sure.
The New York Marathon, I had a Budweiser on First Avenue or Second Avenue there.
Well, you can,
it's better than a
stick 2 glasses into your belt the next time and get going. And we have to leave it there. David, thanks for joining us. Have a good evening and a great weekend.